Part 132. Heaven-Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1321. This shows that there is a precedent for friendship between other fairy beasts and the fairy dragon clan. Moreover, this precedent is relatively well known. Tianyu Dragon Lord and Fire Mark Dragon Lord actually do not reject Wu Yu very much. They just act according to the rules and put the face of the immortal dragon clan first. Therefore, to avoid the deeper love between Wu Yu and Luo Bin, we must withdraw the immortal dragon emperor order and let Wu Yu leave here. It's best if they never meet. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. This decision can be said to make Tianyu Longwang and his companions very happy. Even if the immortal dragon clan does not intend to offend the immortal behind Wu Yu, their own pride and self-confidence are indeed very strong. Driving Wu Yu away was indeed the best decision for them. This does not offend the immortal, and it retains the tradition of the immortal dragon clan. After all, Luo Bin is still the ultimate dragon. The future is promising. But when Ye Qianning asked about it, the two dragon lords were stunned for a moment. In fact, they had almost forgotten about it. Ye Qianning said respectfully, since there is a precedent, and Wu Yu also has a bright future and is willing to serve our immortal dragon emperor realm, I sincerely ask the two dragon lords to help them. Wu Yu was very grateful to Ye Qianning. At this time, they had to speak to the dragon king to have some weight. The two dragon lords did not speak for the time being, but were discussing, probably thinking of a way to be more mellow and drive Wu Yu away. Tianming Long Lord had recovered a little at this time, and he laughed and said, Xuanyi Phoenix King, that is an immortal beast at the level of immortal king. Only by serving our immortal dragon emperor realm can you be qualified to marry my divine dragon clan. This Wu Yu is a what? Yes. Everyone laughed. One is a real immortal king, and the other is just a mysterious immortal from the mortal world. Even if Wu Yu performs well, he cannot compare with an immortal king for the time being. It was his words that made Tianyu Longzun and the others think of a countermeasure. Tianyu Longzun said, if the two are really in love, like-minded, and very destined, then it is not impossible, but it still cannot destroy our immortal dragon. The rules of the clan, so Wu Yu, as an immortal beast, you still have to leave our immortal dragon emperor realm, but... Having said this, he paused for a moment and gave up. After a while, he said, unless you become an immortal king one day and can be like the Xuanyi Phoenix King, you can become an immortal king. The king's strength will serve our immortal dragon emperor realm. When the time comes, I believe that neither we, nor the other dragon lords, nor the 9 dragon emperors will stop you. There was a precedent of Xuanyi Phoenix King, but now it is brought up. The two dragon lords just said that there is no precedent. Now that there is a precedent, they cannot speak too arrogantly and make Wu Yu resentful. It doesn't matter whether Wu Yu is resentful or not. The main reason is that he is slightly worried that the immortal behind him is too powerful and thinks that the immortal dragon, the imperial realm, deliberately made things difficult for Wu Yu in order to avoid trouble, so they came up with such a countermeasure. That is, if Wu Yu has the strength of the immortal king, they will allow you. Taixu immortal realm is easier said than done. It took Wu Hao and others at least 3 yuan to reach this realm, and 300,000 years is considered a short time. Wu Yu wants to marry Luo concubine. Let's talk about it hundreds of thousands of years later. I mean, that's probably it. In such a long time, many changes can occur, such as young people falling in love with each other, Luo Bin falling in love with a young talent from the Shenlong clan, or Wu Yu being killed outside. Therefore, the decision made by Tianyu Longzun and the two of them is quite clever. Actually, I can promise that if you get the Immortal King seal and become the Immortal King, then, within the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm, the two of us will personally preside over your wedding. But after you get the Immortal King before the King's seal, please don't break our rules by entering the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm. Tianyu Longzun finally said. He agreed directly, obviously thinking that this would happen at least tens of thousands of years later, and the road to the immortal king was full of ups and downs. Wu Yu might not be able to reach that level. It would be a long road. There were so many changes in time, maybe by then, both of them would have forgotten each other. This response was indeed ingenious. After hearing this, Tianyu Dragon King and the others could not help but laugh. They praised Tianyu Dragon Lord as indeed worthy of being their uncle. The way he did things was also so flawless. After Wu Yu left the immortal Dragon Emperor realm, these days in 10,000 years, destiny has had countless opportunities. Tianyu Longzun is the younger brother of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. In fact, if Wu Yu didn't have an immortal, probably the immortal Emperor Immortal, who gave him the inheritance, they would probably just throw Wu Yu out as an immortal beast. The immortal dragon clan is so arrogant that they really cannot bear the thought of other immortal beasts wandering around in their territory. After hearing this decision, Ye Qianning frowned deeply and said, "Two dragon lords, this decision is too cruel for them. Becoming an immortal king will take an extremely long time, hundreds of thousands of years. It's normal, this." As soon as she said this, Wu Yu stood next to her and gently told her not to say more, because Wu Yu knew that although the other party's punishment was extremely difficult, he wanted to be upright and fearless with Luo Bin. Even getting married in this immortal Dragon Emperor realm is not hopeless, nor does it necessarily take too long. Therefore, at this time, he exceeded everyone's expectations and said to the two dragon lords, "Thank you to the two dragon lords for giving Wu Yu the opportunity." Regarding the two dragon lords' requests, Wu Yu has been in the world since he left the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. "I will definitely work hard to do it." On the day of success, Wu Yu returns to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm, and I hope that the two of you can fulfill your promise. Today, all dragon kings and dragon lords will bear witness for me. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Everyone was in an uproar. This Wu Yu was really stunned. The two dragon lords had obviously given him a long goal that was enough to change everything, but he actually agreed at this time. Isn't this an impulse? It's like fighting against two dragon lords. After all, you are still too young. You are too impulsive. Zhang is still too old. In this case, Wu Yu's chance will be hopeless. That's right. There are so many things that can be changed in hundreds of thousands of years. Even the most talented immortal may not necessarily be able to become the immortal king. If Wu Yu had finished second and not been so dazzling, causing the dragons to lose face, there would not have been so many people targeting him at this time. On the Three Realms side, Tianzi, Lin Xiaoting, and Tianming gathered together and looked at each other and smiled. "I didn't expect him to be so easy to fool, I'm so stunned," Tianzi said with disgust. "Haha," Tianming sneered. He had other thoughts on his mind. Tianyu Dragon King said, "This kid is so lucky, so his mind is a little dazed, let it go, the immortal king realm. Hundreds of thousands of years later, he may not even know whether he has been to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm." The Destiny Dragon Lord suddenly said, "Wu Yu, I lost to you today because I underestimated my opponent and was unlucky. Next time I will make a bet with you, who will reach the realm of immortal king first." These words caused a burst of noise. This kind of showdown in cultivation speed is also very interesting. However, Wu Yu didn't even look at him. He just smiled coldly and didn't respond. He was afraid that the day he became the immortal king, the realm of the Destiny Dragon Lord would not have changed. Wu Yu's arrogance made Tianming Dragon Lord offended again. He could only sneer and said, "This dog has no courage. I think you will never come to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm in this life." Of course, most people think so. How difficult it would be to become an immortal king and return here. During this period, Wu Yu was asking for two dragon masters, so he must have fulfilled his promise. Tianyu Longzun said happily, "A gentleman's words are hard to follow. We will certainly do what we say." But there is one thing, even if you become the immortal king, if halfway, Luo Bin forgets you, falls in love with someone else, or has already been with, if someone else is married and is no longer in love with you, then we can't make it happen. Wu Yu knew what he meant. They definitely felt that he and Luo Bin were still young and would forget each other for a long time. But at this time, he and Luo Bin looked at each other. Their eyes were extremely firm, firm enough for Wu Yu to say categorically, "Don't worry, Lord Long, I will never force her." Wu Yu wanted to stay in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm forever and be with her, but after all, fate had played a trick on people, and now that he had to leave, he could only accept it. However, he believed that the day when they could meet again would not be too long. Get the Immortal King seal and become the Immortal King. The Immortal King, in the heavenly court, has the power to control the first level of heaven and become the master of the first level of heaven. For example, Qinglian Immortal King. In Qinglian Tian, all the immortals surrender under the jurisdiction of the Qinglian Immortal King, and the Qinglian Immortal King is the Emperor of Qinglian Tian. There are also the Golden Dragon King of Dragon God Sky and so on. With that kind of strength, even in the entire heaven, it is a top existence. In the entire Tiangong immortal realm, there are terrifying immortals. Moreover, the other party's words did not say that he had entered the Taixu fairyland. He only said that he would obtain the Immortal King seal and become an immortal king. Immortal kings all have formal titles. As long as you get the title, no matter it is Taixu fairyland or not, as long as you have the fighting power of Taixu fairyland, you will be the immortal king. Therefore, Wu Yu can come back without even stepping into Taixu wonderland. Tianyu Dragon Lord said, "In this case, the agreement is settled. I will give you 5 days to say goodbye. Wu Jun, remember to put away the immortal Dragon Emperor order. This Dragon Emperor trial is over and you can leave." Wu Jun nodded in agreement. Congratulations to the 2 Dragon Lords. The Dragon Kings and Dragon Lords shouted in unison, and when they could raise their heads, the 2 Dragon Lords were already gone. Wu Jun had some doubts in his heart, and he didn't bother here. He just called everyone and set off back. Wu Yu. In the direction of Tianyuja, Tianming Longjun called him again, and people paid attention to them again. Wu Yu turned around and looked at him coldly. The Destiny Dragon Lord smiled coldly and said, "I wish you will finally become the Immortal King after countless years and drag your old body here. When the time comes, I will send you to hell. Let's do another exciting activity. Open WeChat, click Add Friend, click Official Account to search for Feng Qingyang, and click Follow." As of July 10th, which is the day after tomorrow, the number of new followers has reached 1,000, 5 chapters have been updated on the 10th, 6 chapters have been updated with 1,500 followers, and 7 chapters have been updated with more than 2,000 followers. Today I will start coding in retreat and wait for the day after tomorrow. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1322. I'm afraid you won't survive until then. Wu Yu and his defeated generals were too lazy to say too much. The changes in Dragon Emperor's purgatory were too great this time. Wu Yu was driven away, which can be regarded as the ultimate joy after winning the championship. Therefore, the dragons in the fairy world didn't know whether they should be happy or look sad like Wu Hao and the others. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. As a result, the first person Wu Yu communicated with was Luo Bin. He could not disobey the Dragon Lord's will, because he knew very well that if it weren't for the Immortals behind, the 2 Dragon Lords would not be so polite to him. Therefore, he does not have much qualifications for negotiation. Today, the 2 Dragon Lords can promise that not only will they not stop him, but they will also personally host it. This is already a huge opportunity for Wu Yu. Luo Bin was next to him, and the 2 of them were still holding hands, with their fingers clasped tightly. Luo Ben looked at him gently and said, "Actually, this is good. Generally speaking, this time will not be too long for you. And you have been in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. After all, the territory is limited and there are many restrictions. For you, there is no benefit to improving your strength. Your progress in the past 7 years is far less than the 1 year in Dragon Emperor Purgatory. Therefore, you are still suitable for wandering in the vast world outside. As for me, in this immortal Dragon Emperor realm, be my baby dragon. Practice with peace of mind. But I can't let you go. Such a beautiful and gentle woman, Wu Yu really wanted to stick to her body and smell her fragrance all the time. Fool, we are not separated by life or death. We can contact you at any time using the messenger talisman. And with your ability, it is not difficult to sneak in to see me. Besides, it is not difficult for you to become the immortal king. Come on. When both dragon lords fulfill their promises, there will no longer be any obstacles for us. Luo Ben knocked on his head. Indeed, Wu Yuru transformed into Aoding and came in. This was a simulation of a sky-swallowing giant beast. Who could discover it? Even if the Dragon Lord might find out, it is impossible for the Dragon Lord to squat in the fairy world every day to monitor. Moreover, the messenger talisman can enter the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. Although he is not around, he can communicate at any time without any problem. In short, although a period of separation is required, the impact is obviously not particularly large and it is good for both parties. This ending is not bad. Of course, Wu Yu still disliked the arrogance of the two dragon lords and the jumping up and down of the dragons from the three realms, especially the Yulong King and the Destiny Dragon King that day. Maybe the Destiny Dragon King thought he had a good chance. He even had to compete with his own cultivation speed, which was really whimsical. Wu Yu can now almost start preparing to obtain the Immortal King seal. However, Wu Jun, Wu Hao and Ye Qianing were asking about their concerns. Wu Jun asked, "They almost separated you for such a long time. Why are you two not afraid of anything?" "Yes, we all think it's too much," Ye Qianing asked strangely. Wu Yu's attitude was relatively relaxed. Luo Ben said, "Uncle, adopted father and adopted mother, please rest assured. We know it well. Wu Yu is suitable for going out and wandering, and he can come in to see me at any time. We can also use the messenger talisman to contact you. The key is, you just wait and see, it will definitely not take as long as you think for him to become the immortal king." Her attitude was very determined. "Are you sure, immortal king, it's not that easy?" Wu Hao said. Wu Yu nodded and said, "I'm sure. Don't worry, you three. I dare to promise that there will be a solution." Wu Jun said, "You just said you could sneak in." Wu Yu nodded and said, "Don't forget, you three, when I first came in, I was silent. This is a method in my inheritance. As long as the immortal behind it is mentioned, the three of them will believe it." Seeing that Wu Yu and the others were so confident, even if they were worried, they couldn't worry too much at this time. In fact, they also know that staying in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm is not particularly suitable for people like Wu Yu who need to make a career. Moreover, it seems that the relationship between the two of them will not change at all with the passage of time. Wu Yu still has many questions and wants to ask them during this time when he returns to the fairy world. He devoured many immortals and dragons in the Dragon Emperor Purgatory, but they were all in the mysterious immortal realm, and they did not know much about the Taixu immortal realm. He only knew some vague things, such as the Immortal King's seal. Wu Yu knew that it was a top-notch Taixu artifact. The Taixu divine artifact is on top of the immortal artifact of creation and has a treasure of more than 1,000,000,000 immortal arrays. Wu Yu has already seen the power of the immortal artifact of creation. It is simply not on the same level as the immortal artifact of destiny. This is the case with 10,000 Swords and Dragon City. It seems that every 9 realms immortal lord who wants to enter the Tegzu fairyland must have a Tegzu artifact level immortal king seal. Based on this, and integrated into the body, can he achieve the Tegzu fairyland? The seal of the immortal king seems to be the foundation of Tegzu immortal realm. Wu Jun said, yes, anyone who wants to enter the Tegzu immortal realm must obtain the immortal king seal. The number of immortal king seals is very limited, and unlike other immortal weapons will disappear only when they are destroyed, but the immortal king seal, once a Tegzu artifact like the king seal is used, it is equivalent to disappearing. Therefore, to a certain extent, the forging speed of the immortal king's seal can determine the birth rate of the immortal king in the entire Tiangong immortal domain. Wu Yu did not expect that there is such a strange realm. He has no idea about Tegzu fairyland for the time being. After all, he is still vague about the realm of the Lord of the Realm and needs to explore. He only has 4 paths. Other Tegzu artifacts can exist for millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of years, but the immortal king seal will be reduced by 1 as long as one person becomes an immortal king. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. So, it needs to be forged continuously. Wu Jun continued to introduce, when the autonomous world escapes into the great void, the flesh body cannot bear it. It is necessary to have the immortal king seal's 1,200 billion arrays to fix the flesh body and integrate it into the flesh body, so that the flesh body, the immortal gods and the autonomous world can escape into the great void together and become the immortal of rules. It can be said that the immortal king seal is the most important foundation for becoming an immortal king, which determines which level of the great void you escape into and what heavenly rules you come into contact with. Therefore, the immortal king seal has different grades. The immortal king seal with only 1 billion arrays is the first grade, 2 billion is the second grade, and so on, 9 billion is the 9th grade. The higher the grade, the more you will be in the great void. The higher the achievement in the fairyland, the stronger it is basically. Therefore, the fairy king seal can only be used once, and the grade of the fairy king seal obtained is particularly critical. Generally speaking, the fairy king who has integrated the first grade fairy king seal will not make much progress in the Tegzu fairyland, but if he integrates the fairy king seal of the 6th grade or above, he may be able to step into the level of the immortal emperor in the future. At that time, you need to remember that if possible, you must not make up the numbers, and you must do your best to get the best fairy king seal. Wu Yu understood. Although he couldn't understand what he said about escaping into the Tegzu, he understood that the fairy king seal was the foundation of the Tegzu fairyland and there were grades. Moreover, this consumable Tegzu artifact was obviously extremely precious. It should be difficult to get it. He wanted to have a direction in the future as soon as possible, at least for the immortal king seal, so he asked Wu Jun, "Where can I get the immortal king seal?" Wu Jun said, "In the entire heaven, those who can forge the immortal king seal are at least immortal emperors. In our Shenlong clan, there are several dragon lords and dragon emperors who can forge immortal king seals. We can barely be self-sufficient, but there are no top-grade ones. Only some terrible immortal families, those top-level immortals, can create the best immortal king seals. In the 8,000 heavenly palaces there are not many people who can forge the immortal king seal. But ordinary gods have the opportunity to get the immortal king seal, because the heavenly court has formed the heavenly rules and regulations countless years ago. Some top immortals will provide the immortal king seal to a place called the Immortal King Palace, and then the Immortal King Palace will distribute it to the immortals. Of course, the Immortal King Palace itself is also creating a large number of immortal king seals. Some top immortals will directly create immortal king seals for their descendants and apprentices. As for ordinary immortals, they can buy them at a high price. You can get the immortal king seal, but the price is often ridiculous, and it takes a lot of Tegzu artifacts to exchange for it. It is also possible to find the Immortal King seal in the relics and treasures left by some immortals. This kind of person is very lucky. And most ordinary immortals get the Immortal King seal from the heavenly court allocated by the Immortal King Palace through screening, fighting, and competition in the Taixu Immortal Road. This kind of Immortal King seal has a characteristic, that is, if you become an immortal with this kind of Immortal King seal, you will be directly enfeoffed as an Immortal King, and what will be enfeoffed territory, and become an official immortal in the heavenly court. Many of my Shenlong clan also work for the heavenly court, so it does not conflict with your return to the immortal dragon empire. These four methods are basically the most common. Among them, obtaining the Immortal King order through the Immortal King Palace accounts for more than 95%. However, the Immortal King seals of the three of us were obtained through competition among our Shenlong clan, and they were all forged by the Dragon Emperor or Dragon Lord. It is also similar to the elders in the immortal family forging for their descendants. Wu Yu understood. He said, so, if I want to get the Immortal King seal, the most reasonable way is to go to the Immortal King Palace, which represents the heavenly court, and the Jade Emperor, who distributes the Immortal King seal to the immortals, but only those who pass the test and get it in the competition are qualified. And the place of test and competition is in the Taixu Immortal Road. Wu Jun nodded and said, in fact, every time the Immortal King Palace activates the Taixu Immortal Road, the movement is extremely huge. It will make the heavenly palace boil. Moreover, the most outstanding immortals may get a very high-grade Immortal King seal, even the 7th or 8th grade. It is possible. Organize another explosive update event. Open WeChat, click Add Friends, click Public Account, search Feng Qingyang, and click to follow. As of July 10th, that is, the day after tomorrow, the number of new members has reached 1,000, and 5 chapters will be updated on the 10th, 6 chapters will be updated for 1,500, and 7 chapters will be updated for more than 2,000. I will start to write in seclusion today, waiting for the day after tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1323. It is indeed conceivable that the realm masters and gods of the entire 8,000 heavenly palace entered the Taixu Immortal Road to fight fiercely in order to obtain the Immortal King seal. The number of people must be endless. Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow. Only those who stand out may become the Immortal King. To become an Immortal King is to be a king, and in the 8,000 heavenly palace, one is considered to have a high position of authority. Not everyone has an elder who has specially given the Immortal King seal or prepared the Immortal King seal. Of course, in order to use the Immortal King seal, you must first become the Immortal Lord of the 9 realms. Therefore, the Immortal King seal and the Immortal King's Imperial Palace are still a bit far away from Wu Yu. But at least it was his big goal. On that Taixu Immortal Road, there are basically all the powerful people from the entire heaven, below the Immortal King. Where is the Immortal King's Imperial Palace? Wu Yu asked. He thought that it must be a place where the Immortal Lord of the 9 realms can go. It's not too high. It's on the 5,000th heaven, and it's called Chang'an Heaven. 5,000 heavens, Wu Yu thought, ordinary realm masters can go up to the divine realm. He estimated that after a while, if they hold on hard, they should be able to go up directly. So going to Chang'an Tian is not a big problem. Wu Jun showed a longing look and said, actually, at the beginning, I also wanted to go to Taixu Immortal Road to have a try, but the time was not right. Taixu Immortal Road only opened once in 5,000 years. I couldn't wait, so in our Shenlong there is competition within the clan. The Taixu Immortal Road is where all the heroes compete. Only then can a higher quality Immortal King seal appear. Now, it's missed. It was indeed a soul-stirring place. Wu Jun looked at Wu Yu and said, you have a bright future. You must go to Taixu Immortal Road to fight for it in the future. Do you know that the person in charge of the Immortal King's Palace is one of the 5 directions holy emperors in heaven? 1. Dongfang Chang'an Saint Emperor. This Dongfang Chang'an Saint Emperor is almost as old as the Jade Emperor. He is one of the ancient and powerful gods in heaven, even more powerful than our 9 dragon emperors. It is rumored that he will also personally forge the Immortal King seal and put it into the Taixu Immortal Road, waiting for the destined person to get it. Holy Emperor of Eastern Chang'an. Regarding the heavenly court, Wu Yu also knew of the highest existence, the Jade Emperor of the Lingxiao Palace, that is the Lord of Heaven. But in heaven, there are countless strong people, and there are many ancient immortals. No wonder the 5,000th heaven, called Chang'an Heaven, turned out to be the territory of the Eastern Chang'an Holy Emperor. This title is also extremely overbearing. I wonder how high the position of these 5 directions holy emperors is. Wu Yu searched his memory and found the holy emperors of the 5 directions, as well as the Donghua Great Emperor of 3 continents and 10 islands, the Great Immortal of Central Yellow Pole and Yellow Horn, Northern Arctic Xianling Dumuyuanjun, and Southern Antarctic Guanyin Great Lord. These 4. These bands alone are scary enough. And all of them are more powerful than the 9 dragon emperors. Wu Yu suspected that even the Monkey King was far from these levels. They are the ones who have been in charge of heaven and have dominated for hundreds of millions of years. The Immortal King seal is indeed very important, so let the Eastern Chang'an Holy Emperor, one of the 5 directions holy emperors, take charge of it. Every time before Taixu Immortal Road opens, 100 million Immortal King orders will be issued. Only those with Immortal King orders are qualified to enter Taixu Immortal Road before it opens. In fact, every time the competition for the Immortal King seal all started with the competition for the Immortal King's token. There are only 100 million places, but countless people want to get it. Therefore, the Immortal King's token also has a price but no market. It is very difficult to obtain the Immortal King token if you need a top-notch immortal weapon, Wu Jun said. He was not in a hurry. After all, this was to prepare Wu Yu mentally. This was the place he had to go to if he wanted to return to the Immortal Dragon Emperor's world openly in the future. Suddenly, Wu Hao received a messenger talisman. His face was not very good and he said, "Wu Yu, you are not very lucky." Taixu Immortal Road, was it just opened? Wu Jun asked. He had been the Dragon King for a long time, so he didn't pay attention to the time of Taixu Immortal Road. He only remembered that it opened once every 5,000 years. Wu Hao shook his head and said, "No, but in the remaining 21 years, the Taixu Immortal Road will be opened. The Immortal King's order should have been completed. Moreover, your current strength is not enough to go to Taixu. There is competition on the Immortal Road, so you may have to wait 5,000 years before entering again." 21 years? Within these 21 years, can I enter with the Immortal King's order? Wu Yu asked. Wu Hao said, "That's true, but those who go in and want to compete, the strength of the 6 realms Immortal Lord is basic no matter what. They are just cannon fodder inside. They just go in to gain experience and make plans for the future. Really, in the Taipei, in the 100 years competition on the Void Immortal Road, 99% of those who obtained the Immortal King seal were the top 9 realm Immortal Lords." Wu Yu understood that in just these 21 years, even if he kept devouring and devouring like crazy, he would not be able to become the Immortal Lord of the 9 realms. However, the Taixu Immortal Road will last for 100 years before it ends. He will have enough time to become stronger in it. Therefore, Wu Hao feels that he is unlucky and has to wait 5,000 years. However, Wu Yu himself feels that, this luck was just right. If he had to wait for more than 1,000 years, he would probably have to wait a long time. In 21 years, it should not be difficult to grab the Immortal King's order that everyone wants. In any case, Wu Yu will go to the Chang'an Tian to see the grand scene there. It is estimated that at this time, that it's already quite lively. What are your plans? Wu Jun asked. Wu Yu said, since there is nowhere to go, let's go to Chang'an Tian to see the situation and try our luck. If there is any decision, I will tell you with the communication fairy talisman. That's fine. Maybe if I'm lucky, I can go in first this time. If I'm luckier, I can get a fairy king order this time, and then I can practice slowly and wait to become a fairy king, Wu Jun said. He still has confidence in Wu Yu. In fact, Wu Yu's goal is that he must go in. 100 years seems too long to him. After all, he is actually less than 100 years old so far. Wu Yu basically asked all the questions he should ask, and he has some understanding of the others. He has more important things. Everyone returned to the fairy world, and Wu Jun and his friends gave Wu Yu a large number of communication fairy talismans so that he could contact and greet him at any time. The fairy world is the most popular now, but Wu Jun knows that they need to be particularly low-key next time. After all, Tianyu Longwang and his friends are still angry. The news that Tianming was defeated by Wu Yu has spread throughout the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm. Now, the dragons of the entire Immortal Dragon Emperor realm are afraid that they all know Wu Yu, breaking up the 9,000-year wait of the grandson of Tianxin Dragon Emperor. It is said that he is also the inheritor of a mysterious immortal. You can be alone. If you have anything, you can come to us directly. After arriving at the Immortal Spirit Realm, Wu Jun and the others gave Wu Yu a separate space, and Wu Yu was also waiting for this time. They were in the depths of Qin Yinfan's residence, and the two were in the quiet clouds. So anxious, what did you gain in the Dragon Emperor Purgatory? Luo Bin asked a little nervously. I don't know, I got a piece of white dragon scale, and a voice asked me to start with the floating life sword. I may need to even sacrifice this fate immortal weapon floating life sword. Well, Luo Bin sat on the side and waited quietly. Wu Yu didn't bother to look at other prizes, including the creation pill, the realm master's divine art, etc. Instead, he went straight to the sword. This was a snow-white blade, like white jade, simple and natural, and the style was very similar to the floating life tower. In fact, it looked like a set. The creation immortal weapon is different. Before the intense competition, it felt particularly heavy in the hand. Every particle of the floating life sword felt completely surrounded by the magic circle. It seemed that everything could be chopped into pieces by waving it casually, including the Kinkan space. Wu Yu just waved everything, and the surrounding space was torn apart, and it took a long time to heal. As for those rocks and rivers, they were basically swept over and easily broken. Extremely sharp. What is creation? Such a miracle, even the space of the heavenly court can be easily torn apart, which is a kind of creation. This kind of creation immortal weapon, with a magic circle of 500 million, is more terrible than the 10,000 swords dragon city of Tianming. It is estimated that one sword can tear apart all other creation immortal weapons. Under the gentle gaze of Luo Bin, Wu Yu began to do his best to sacrifice the immortal weapon floating life sword. With her by his side, Wu Yu felt extremely at ease. I hope you have greater gains, Luo Bin thought to herself. In fact, she was reluctant to let Wu Yu leave. This was her happiest time, but she still felt that for Wu Yu's personality, going out to venture out would be more suitable for him. You know, I also want to be as strong as you and venture out with you. You once tried your best to catch up with me, but now, it is difficult for me to catch up with you. Thinking about it, although Luo Bin was not disappointed, there was always a little regret, because for this relationship, she wanted to give more, that would be good. It took Wu Yu 2 days to completely sacrifice this difficult floating life sword. The main reason was that there were too many and too complicated arrays inside, 10 times more than the immortal light dragon roar sword. You need to understand them all. Of course, after learning about this creation fairy weapon, I was still very shocked, because its power was indeed beyond Wu Yu's expectation. This creation fairy weapon has two types of differentiation. One of them is called the instant killing fairy formation, which is fast, accurate and ruthless. The other is called the great splitting heaven and earth formation, which is the source of its terrible cutting ability. If you swing it at any time, you can tear the heaven and earth apart. If you accidentally put it on the ground, it can poke down from the 2000 heavens to the mortal world, and then cause the lives of all living things to be destroyed. Therefore, this floating life sword must be controlled at all times. It is easy to tear anything apart. It also plays a significant role in improving Wu Yu's combat effectiveness. Of course, for Wu Yu, what is more important is what can the floating life sword bring to this white dragon scale. The explosive update activity, yesterday on the 8th, the net increase in the number of people was 810, and there are only more than 100 chapters left before tomorrow's explosive update of 5 chapters. There is still one day, so everyone should pay attention to it. I still hope to reach 2000, and update 7 chapters. I am almost ready to write the manuscript for the update. It depends on whether everyone is supportive. For such activities, I am also full of passion when I write. Open WeChat, click Add Friends, click Official Account, search Feng Qingyang, and click to follow. As of 12 o'clock tonight, the number of new members has reached 1000. On the 10th, 5 chapters will be updated, 1500 will be updated, and 7 chapters will be updated for more than 2000. In addition, the data of new followers every day can be checked in the background of the official account. On the 10th, I will post a screenshot of the data on the official account. I will never falsify it. Heaven and earth can testify. If there is an update, you may see the Chuang play tomorrow. Heaven swallowing record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 1324. Now, Wu Yu has followed the tips he heard before leaving the Dragon Emperor's purgatory, obtained the fusion sword, and has completed the sacrifice. Floating sword, how to activate this white dragon scale. Wu Yu took out the white dragon scale for the first time. Now when I took a closer look, I realized that this dragon scale was not complete, and the edges were somewhat damaged, as if it had been removed from a severely injured body. It feels very ancient, as if it is something extremely distant. The original dragon scale that Luo Bin once obtained was actually a Xianxian level divine dragon. The dragon scales left in the mortal world, and the power contained in them, brought Luo Bin back to life. The original dragon scale and the white dragon scale in Wu Yu's hand are simply not on the same level. Wu Yu could even say that even Wu Jun and the others would definitely not be able to recognize what this thing was. Now, he and Luo Bin are studying this white dragon scale. There seems to be writing on it, Luo Bin suddenly noticed. Wu Yu took a closer look and found that there were very small characters on it. There were 4 in total, and each character was as small as a particle of dust. Wu Yu looked at it for a while before he realized that these 4 characters were 8 heavenly dragons. What is the 8 heavenly dragons? Luo Bin shook her head and said, I don't know, I haven't heard of it either. Wu Yu knew that this must have something to do with the 8 heavenly dragon palaces that appeared out of thin air in the Dragon Emperor's purgatory, but those 8 heavenly dragon palaces were destroyed by destiny. If the 8 dragons is a kind of divine dragon, or the name of a certain divine dragon, then this dragon scale may belong to him. Probably. Wu Yu started to try. He first used the fusion sword to make various attempts, such as gently tapping, for example, instilling the immortal essence into the fusion sword, and then tapping on the white dragon scales. I tried several methods, including dripping my own blood on the white dragon scales, but nothing happened for the time being. Didn't you say that the floating sword can be opened? Wu Yu was also depressed. He tried every method he could think of. To no avail. I think we can take a risk. After all, what do you think are the characteristics of Fusion Tower? Luo Bin asked. Cut, sharp Wu Yu suddenly realized. Luo Bin was very smart and asked him to actually use the fusion sword to split the white dragon scales. If it's really a divine object, it's impossible for me to break it directly. If this method is wrong, I obviously won't be able to break it. Wu Yu nodded. He controlled the white dragon scales in the air, exerted his physical strength, and suddenly exerted force. The fusion sword first tore the space above his head, and finally struck the white dragon scales. Dang, Wu Yu's arm and sword resisted, but the white dragon scales were unharmed. Wrong method. Not necessarily, maybe because the strength is weak. In this case, Wu Yu was not polite. He directly used the magic of heaven and earth to become huge and tyrannical. He simply used all the violent skills, and then used the Bodhi immortal essence and dragon elephant Buddha essence all over his body to kill fiercely and kill with one sword. On top of those white dragon scales. Tear. Wu Yu finally felt that he had succeeded. The white dragon scale broke in half before his eyes and turned into a white light. The white light then transformed into a snow-white light and shadow dragon, only the size of a tail finger, beating in front of Wu Yu's eyes. What is this? Wu Yu was pleasantly surprised. He put everything away and was about to control the light and shadow dragon to prevent it from slipping away. Unexpectedly, the speed of this light and shadow dragon was so fast. As soon as Wu Yu made any movement, it suddenly retreated when it saw Wu Yu. When it turned around, it seemed to see Luo Bin, and then with a sudden sound, it rushed in with lightning speed. Luo Bin's eyebrows disappeared in an instant. Wu Yu was a little nervous, but he had a hunch that these 8 dragons would not harm him. Luo Bin suddenly closed her eyes, feeling a little confused. The light on her body was changing, and Wu Yu was still a little nervous. She suddenly made a gesture and waved her hand to tell Wu Yu not to get close to her and not to disturb her. Wu Yu could only stay in place, watching all the subtle changes in Luo Bin, especially the wonderful improvement in temperament. Of course he felt nervous, because he brought the white dragon scales out, but now they have gone to Luo Bin. Who knows what will happen to? However, it didn't seem like there was any danger in looking at Luo Bin, so he held back for the time being. About half an hour later, she suddenly opened her eyes. The moment Wu Yu saw her eyes, he felt a little dazed. Because in Luo Bin's body, he saw an aura similar to himself, or similar to the indestructible body. It's amazing. When Luo Bin opened her eyes, there was an intoxicating smile on her face. She was completely happy and excited. She jumped up and tears seemed to flow from her eyes. She hugged Wu Yu with her arms very hard, she almost pushed Wu Yu into her arms, pressed his head on that soft existence, and then said, "I really don't know how to thank you. You brought me so much this time. Good fortune can completely change my life." Wu Yu enjoyed the softness and fragrance and was reluctant to leave. He asked blankly, "What? What did you say?" Luo Bin pulled him out, held his face, kissed him hard on the mouth, then blinked her eyes and said very charmingly, "I said, I really love you so much. I'm not used to confessing like this all of a sudden. What happened?" Seeing that she was so happy and started to become bold regardless of her image, Wu Yu knew that it must be the white dragon scales that brought she created it. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Luo Bin still hugged him, put her face close to his ear, exhaled like a blue breath, and whispered, "That little white dragon has integrated into my immortal god and become a part of me. At that time, I heard a voice say that he is my ancestor, also known as the 8 divisions of heavenly dragon, and I am destined to be his inheritor." The inheritance of the 8 heavenly dragons. What kind of existence are these 8 heavenly dragons? Wu Yu had devoured so many people, but he didn't even know his name. If it is so top-notch, why is no one talking about it in Shenlong? For example, what dragon doesn't know about the 9 dragon emperors? What else? Wu Yu asked. Luo Ben said softly, then it disappeared. However, I infer that these 8 heavenly dragons are related to the Monkey King, the Grand Marshal Tianpeng, and the General Rolling Curtain. Her face was slightly red, maybe she was too excited, as if she was drunk, and she hugged Wu Yu tightly. There must be a hint of reluctance that Wu Yu was about to leave. Why do you say that? Wu Yu enjoyed her soft but strong embrace. This gentle place really made him linger. Luo Ben said in his ear, now I have 2 more cultivation methods out of thin air. One is called the 8 parts of heavenly dragon's body and the other is called the ancient holy emperor and dragon emperor's sutra. Isn't this method harmonious? Your indestructible body is very similar to the great heavenly immortal technique. Or, in other words, are you Xixi's hell reincarnation body and 10 wheels of Kasidagarba ghost nerve? Indestructible body. The body of a 9-turn emperor. The body of reincarnation in hell. The body of 8 heavenly dragons. Wu Yu was stunned and fell into a trance. After a while, he finally realized what he was doing and showed a look of ecstasy. He in turn wrapped his thick arms around her waist and held her delicate body in his arms. Inside, he said ecstatically, that's absolutely right. The 8 heavenly dragons must be their 4th partner. Although I don't know why they left their inheritance and disappeared, no one knows them, but obviously, that voice told me to go to the Dragon Emperor Purgatory, felt the inheritance of my Monkey King, and then asked me to bring out the white dragon scale, and you have the best relationship with me and your own conditions are not bad, so he chose you. I think this should be it. Maybe from now on, I finally have hope of being able to catch up with you. Luo Ben was so excited that she cried. This was the moment that changed her destiny. Previously, seeing Wu Yu's rapid growth, she was under too much pressure, and it was only then that she reluctantly released it. She put her hands around Wu Yu's neck and was unwilling to let go for a moment. Her current appearance, with tears in her eyes, was charming, and her face was flushed, which was even more intoxicating. Because she was so excited, her whole body was filled with heat, and her hot body was even more moving. She has never looked like such a little woman like she does now. You hugged him too tightly. Luo Ben leaned on his arms and said weakly. I don't want to let go. I'm so happy. Wu Yu looked at her, a little obsessed. To be honest, most of his current immortals still look like the sky-swallowing giant beast. He also relied on the Ruyi golden cudgel to achieve his goals. Suppress the urge to reproduce. Inside the Fusion Tower, Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi heard their conversation. Yezixi also shed tears and said, that's great. Sister Luo Ben is so good. Brother, you will be very happy because of her good fortune. Nanshan Wanjiao said, that's more than just happy. Look at them working hard. They don't take 10 breaths. If they don't do anything that is inconvenient for children to watch, I will take your surname. Yezixi said angrily, you dirty guy, how can you be so dissatisfied that all your thoughts are? As soon as Yezixi said this, Wu Yu completely closed the Fusion Tower. Now the two of them could only stare in the dark. Nanshan Wanjiao laughed loudly and said, let me tell you. But Yezixi could only gnash her teeth, and finally said to the white cat in her arms, Lanlan, we don't care about them anymore, sleep. Oh, practice. Of course they knew the reason why Wu Yu closed the Fusion Tower. Under the sadness of separation. Luo Ben's pressure was released and she felt happy with this good fortune. Attracted by Wu Yu's aura. Under the urge to reproduce of the sky-swallowing behemoth. Everything fell into intoxication. Heart pounding. When Luo Ben's face turned red and her eyes blurred, she whispered softly into his ear, Wu Yu, I can't wait any longer for the wedding day. I want you now. She was so proactive, straightforward, and domineering. Wu Yu had been waiting for this moment when she was willing. How could he miss this opportunity? Therefore, on Canyon Peak shrouded in fairy mist, the water melts and you can enjoy the beauty. In the update event, Yesterday, the 8th, the net number of new people was 810, and there are only more than 100 chapters left until tomorrow's update, which will be 5 chapters. There is only one day left, please pay attention. I still hope to reach 2000 and update 7 chapters. Madman is almost ready to release the manuscript for the update. It depends on everyone's ability. In such an activity, even if a madman is coding, he will be full of passion. Open WeChat, click Add Friend, click Official Account to search for Fengqing Yang, and click Follow. As of 12 o'clock tonight, the number of new members has reached 1000. On the 10th, 5 chapters will be updated. On 1500, 6 chapters will be updated. On 2000 or more, 7 chapters will be updated. In addition, the number of new followers every day can be checked by the madman in the background of the official account. On the 10th, the data screenshot will be posted on the official account. It is not fake. Heaven and earth can testify. If there is an update, you may see the Chuang play tomorrow. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1325. These two kids are making too much noise. Let's go out and give them some freedom. Ye Qianning smiled, but was a little shy. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Wu Hao gritted his teeth a little. After all, this is his daughter, although she is only an adopted daughter. However, he also knew that the relationship between Luo Bin and Wu Yu was far beyond theirs, and he couldn't control it. So under Ye Qianning's pull, the two secretly left Qinyan Peak and gave Wu Yu and the others the greatest freedom at the beginning. On Qinyan Peak, the fairy mist was lingering, and the fairy air was like the sea, surging outward in a stable and slightly rough rhythm, and it lasted for a long time. Under the dual interweaving of parting sorrow and excitement, love is like a madman, and can only be released to the extreme at this moment. It's like a refreshing downpour, roaring and falling, shaking the earth and mountains. The intense part, Qinyan Peak was trembling. Wu Yu certainly could not forget the beauty and passion of this day. After that day, on the Qinyan Peak surrounded by fairy mist and constantly changing, on the bluestone beside the flowing waterfall, Luo Bin lay softly in Wu Yu's arms, sleeping with satisfaction and smile. The queen who once controlled the dragon clan in the mortal world has now been conquered by Wu Yu. Wu Yu has never been so relaxed, and of course he is happy for Luo Bin. In the future, during the time he is away, she can continue to grow with the help of the 8 heavenly dragons. Wu Yu and he have the same inheritance, but there is an extra sky-swallowing beast, but as long as there is time, Luo Bin's future achievements will definitely not be low. The only difference between the 8 heavenly dragons is that they don't seem to have the same weapon, such as Wu Yu's Ruyi Golden Cudgel, Tianpeng's Shangbaokan Golden Rake, and Zhuanlian's demon-subduing treasure staff. But after all, the 8 celestial dragons are pure immortal beasts, and they rely more on their innate magical powers. So it is estimated that the innate magical powers that Lupin will get in the future will be terrifying. Now, no one can change the fact that we are the immortal couple in this heavenly palace. Wu Yu played with her long hair at the temples, and Lupin woke up at this time. Lupin stretched lazily, and her slender and graceful figure made Wu Yu a little moved again. She looked at Wu Yu's eyes and knew that he had bad intentions, and said, "Don't think too much, before getting married, there can only be this time, and you have to work hard in the future to come back and marry me. Don't worry, even if it's for the beauty of yesterday, I will hurry to complete the task." Wu Yu laughed. In fact, although Wu Yu is the prince of Dongguo and has been the emperor of Yu, he should have countless concubines, but he actually enjoyed this kind of enjoyment only after he became an immortal. As for Lupin, it goes without saying that no one has touched her hand before Wu Yu. "You are so talkative, you deserve to be beaten." The two played for a while, and Lupin said, "I have given myself to you. In the future, you must not flirt with other women, otherwise I will find a way to make you childless." Don't be so domineering. This is not domineering. You are my personal property now, Lupin said. Wu Yu smiled and said, don't worry, there is no one more beautiful than you in this world. He is not a promiscuous person. Except for the bad relationship with Nangongwei when he was young, he has only Lupin in his heart since then, and no one else. Although the 5 days have not arrived, Wu Yu knows that he should leave. There is still a lot of time in the future. There is no need to cling to it, which will only increase sadness. See, there are 100,000 communication fairy talismans, 50,000 for you and me, which can be used for a long time. Wu Yu opened the sumi bag. Maybe these 100,000 communication fairy talismans can relieve the longing. Maybe I will come back before they are all used up, Wu Yu said. Lupin actually understood that she would not let Wu Yu leave in a hurry at the last moment. She had already released her greatest longing for him. Now, she had also made up her mind to devote herself to longing for him. When Wu Yu came to find her again, she would at least have achieved something. She sorted out Wu Yu's clothes, and at this time she was as careful as his mother. Finally, she smiled with satisfaction and said, okay, after saying goodbye to my uncle, my adoptive father and my adoptive mother, you can leave and pursue your path of immortal king. Okay. Wu Yu wanted to hug her again and be reluctant to leave, but when he had to leave, indulging in this reluctance would only increase his sadness. Now they were actually very lucky. He and Lupin wanted to make this separation more passionate. After all, this was just an ordinary separation. At Kinyan Peak, Wu Hao and Ye Qianing were not found. After sending a communication fairy talisman, they knew that they were at Wu Jun's place, so they could go together. After arriving, the eyes of the three elders were a little ambiguous, which made Lupin really embarrassed. Wu Yu was still very generous. He took her and said to the three elders, Wu Yu is here to say goodbye. I would like to thank the three elders for taking care of me and her during this period of time. Wu Jun waved his hand and said, don't worry. After you leave, we will continue to protect her and take care of her. After all, she is our daughter. Wu Yu was still quite relieved that Luo Bin stayed here. After all, she was a princess in this fairy world. Wu Yu, you are cautious, so we don't need to give you any advice. Anyway, no matter what impulsive decision you make, remember that Binner is in this fairy dragon emperor world, waiting for you to return with glory, Ye Qianing said. Wu Yu nodded and remembered it. We will see you off. No need, it's just a short farewell. I'll be back soon. Wu Yu thanked them again. Without them, how could Wu Yu have secured the inheritance of the 8 heavenly dragons for Luo Bai? In that case, we will wait for your good news. Wu Jun was still very confident in him. After saying goodbye, Wu Yu also asked Luo Bin to stay here and there was no need to send her far away. Yes, Luo Bin nodded obediently. In fact, she was very sensible. At this time, she must let Wu Yu leave simply and smoothly. The more reluctant she was, the more concerned he would be, and he would not be able to grow with peace of mind. Go ahead. Wait until I come back. Okay, I'm always here and I'm not going anywhere. Wu Yu gave her one last greedy look, engraved her appearance in his mind, then turned around and left resolutely. Missing and reluctant to leave, how could it be possible? The moment Wu Yu turned around, Luo Bin couldn't help but burst into tears. In the blink of an eye, Wu Yu disappeared into the clouds. My child, don't be sad. Although it may be difficult to meet again after the separation, at least he is very responsible, knows what he should do, and has goals. I think he will not let you down. Ye Qianing came over, he comforted the concubine Luo. With tears in her eyes, Luo Bin shook her head and said, it's not that I'm worried that he can't do it, but I'm just a little bit reluctant to leave. These days, I'm used to having him by my side. Wu Hao sighed and said, I also hope that it won't take too long for him to come back. After all, those beasts in the Tianyu realm are definitely eyeing the concubine. Wu Jun sneered and said, then it depends on whether the destiny has to wait for another 9,000 years. If not, he will have to enter the Hadalong Tower in the next 4,000 years. He will also come out 4,000 years later. Ye Qianing said, then I hope Wu Yu can achieve results within 4,000 years. Wu Hao shook his head and said, it's also very troublesome, because this time the Taixu Immortal Road will only be opened for 21 years, and the next time will be 5,000 years later. The Immortal King Seal is so precious. With his capital outside, unless the Immortal behind him directly gives him the Immortal King Seal. When they were talking, Luo Ben didn't say much, because Luo Ben knew that Wu Yu's goal was of course not the next Immortal King Seal War, but the one 21 years later. Lasts for hundreds of years. In other words, 121 years later, Wu Yu may come back. There is no need to wait 4,000 years. However, even if she told the three elders her idea, they wouldn't believe it. On the way back, Luo Ben asked Ye Qianing, Father, do you know what the 8 steps of Heavenly Dragon is? Wu Yu said that he saw a slightly strange place in the Dragon Emperor's purgatory called the 8 Steps of Heavenly Dragon Hall. Baba Tianlong, it sounds familiar, but I have no impression. What's wrong? Oh, it's okay. He is just a little curious as to why a small ruin appeared in that deserted place. Oh, you can shut down the fusion tower, but you can't shut me down. I'm so close and enjoying a physical battlefield, but I can't see how you two are so polite at ordinary times. Why are you so bold and unrestrained? Since leaving the main fairy peak, Minglong started to scream strangely. Wu Yu was still 2 heads and 2 older. When he closed the fusion tower, he forgot that this guy was still watching. He didn't expect her to be so shameless. She had to watch this from close range. Shut up. You ignorant person. Oh, please tell me clearly, who is shameless? Didn't you think that I was rebelling? Will you hurt my young heart by doing this? The Minglong monster shouted. You little shit. You old witch. You dare to attack me? Believe it or not, I will describe it to you. What were you like at that time? Ha ha. Pervert, how can you shut up? Wu Yu was speechless. That's right. As for me? Hey, I haven't had this kind of life for more than 120,000 years, and I also want to experience it. Minglong chuckled. You, pervert. Wu Yu was too lazy to tell her, and became more and more enthusiastic as he talked. After leaving the immortal Dragon Emperor realm and arriving at Dragon God's heaven, I thought that the fusion tower was still closed. After Wu Yu opened it, he was about to speak. Nanshan Wanjiao and Yet 11 crossed their arms with weird smiles on their faces. The lazy cat also stood up and crossed his arms. Nanshan Wanjiao, hey 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 hey. Yezixi, hey hey hey. Wan he cat, meow 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 meow. I think the fusion sword might be related to the fusion tower. I want to try it now to see if there is any connection. Wu Yu changed the topic and said. Nanshan Wanjiao, hey 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 hey. Yezixi, hey hey hey. Wan he cat, meow 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 meow. Zixi, don't let him teach you bad things. Wu Yu said depressedly. Yezixi still crossed her arms with a wicked smile on her face, he 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 he. The next volume, The Heaven-Swallowing Immortal King. On the 8th and 9th, there were a net increase of 810 people on the 8th and a net increase of 1,015 people on the 9th, adding up to 1,825 people, more than 1,500 and close to 2,000. However, due to everyone's sincerity, we decided to update Chapter 7. After reading the update, remember to visit Feng Qingyang Studio. The screenshot of the data was published on the WeChat public account in the evening. It is absolutely innocent, hee hee. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1326. Wu Yu's forehead was completely covered with 3 black lines. What a heart-wrenching parting. Envy. I have long wanted you to leave the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. Ever since I came to heaven, I have never seen a normal beauty in this fusion tower. After laughing for a long time, Nanshan Wanjiao said. Yezixi's face suddenly darkened. You stupid pig, are you blind? She said to Wu Yu with a sad face. Brother Yu, I'm not happy. I want to protest. I propose to drive him out of the fusion tower. I don't want to see him every day anymore. Not as lazy and cute as me. Besides, I'm too lazy to see you. I'm not too lazy to look good. You. Wu Yu settled down in this extremely remote place in Dragon God's heaven. He was not in a hurry to go to Chang'an heaven first. Instead, he found a way to use some time to increase his strength as much as possible. I suspect that the fusion sword and the fusion tower are related. Maybe they both come from the floating immortal king. Let me test it. Maybe the floating tower is also an immortal weapon of good fortune. He dug a deep cave on the ground of Dragon God Heaven, and then took out the floating life tower and the floating life sword. Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi also came out of the fusion tower and accompanied Wu Yu. Nanshan Wanjiao said, I'm still very confused. If these 4 are closely related, and the inheritance of 3 appears in the world of Jambudvipa, and 1 stays in the heaven, what changes have happened to the 4 of them, so that they can leave their inheritance like this? And in the palace of heaven, there seems to be no legend about them. Wu Yu shook his head and said, from my memory, for example, some people know the immortals who are hundreds of millions of years old, such as the Eastern Chang'an Holy Emperor. Maybe the 4 of them cannot reach this level, but in fact, in heaven, many immortal kings are well known to everyone, but the achievements of these 4 should be more than just immortal kings. The Monkey King, the great sage, defeated the Buddha in a fight. The Grand Marshal Tianpeng is also the envoy of the Pure Altar, the General Rolling Curtain is also the Golden Body Arhat, and the ancestor of this dragon is also the 8 heavenly dragons, yet 1111 also couldn't figure out who they were in this heavenly palace. Wu Yu nodded and said, no matter who they are and what secrets they have, we may know it if we continue to practice further. Nanshan Wanjiao said, first of all, our cultivation method is different from that of ordinary immortals. Wu Yu's great heavenly immortal skills, as well as the 10 wheels of Ksatagarbha ghost nerve, and the ancient holy emperor dragon that Luo Ben just obtained, the Emperor's Sutra, is the orthodox method of cultivating gods and ghosts. But the 4 of us have another method of cultivating the physical body. In addition to the immortal essence, the physical body gives birth to another kind of power. For example, your indestructible body gives birth to the Buddha's essence. My 9-turn emperor immortal body gave birth to a power similar to the immortal essence, but somewhat similar to your Buddha essence, called the emperor essence. Yezixi's hell reincarnation body, in addition to the ghost element in the ghost, there is also power in the physical body, which is called the power of reincarnation. Luo Bai, with the cultivation method of the 8 heavenly dragon body, it will obviously have 2 kinds of power. Among them, the physical body will also start to cultivate, and the cultivation method of the physical body is very different from the cultivation method of the celestial palace and immortal realm. So, I guess it is very likely that these 4 people encompass the cultivation methods of the 2 worlds, or that they are 2 systems, and the physical cultivation system may have been lost in the ancient times, or it may come from another one. Fairyland. Yezixi said, maybe it was lost in ancient times. The immortal domain of Heavenly Palace is the limit of the world. Speaking of this, Wu Yu seemed to remember something, which was very far away. After Yezixi finished speaking, he shook his head and said, maybe there really is another fairyland. Why do you say that? Wu Yu recalled and said, when I got the Ruyi golden cudgel, I remember that voice was saying that he was the Monkey King of the Tiangong immortal realm, the fighting and victorious Buddha of the Tianfo immortal realm. So, I guess, whether it is the fighting Buddha, the pure altar envoy, the golden Arhat, or the 8 heavenly dragons, they all have the title of heavenly Buddha immortal realm. It's been so long that he almost forgot about it. Is there such a Buddhist fairyland? The two of them did not hear the inheritor talk about this. I see, maybe there really is this existence called the heavenly Buddha immortal realm, but no one seems to know about it in this heaven? At least if they know, it can't be like this now. There must be a legend. Wu Yu took a deep breath and said, I suggest that we don't ask others about the Tianfo immortal realm. Why? Wu Yu said, we don't know why they left their inheritance and whether it has something to do with the Buddha immortal realm. Once we ask, it is very likely that someone will know that we are related to these 4 people. After all, other people don't seem to know at all. Knowing that this heavenly Buddha immortal realm exists, we can only take one step and look at it. As we continue to practice, maybe these mysteries will be answered. No matter what secrets are involved, the truth will eventually come out. Well, that makes sense. Especially Nanshan Wanjiao and the others are still very weak and cannot withstand the devastation. I don't know, what exactly do they want us to do? Yezixi stared at her watery eyes and held her chin in thought. Wu Yu temporarily put aside this long-standing matter and concentrated on studying the floating tower and floating sword. The immortal King Fuxian, who is in Taixu immortal realm, is very blessed. Then he personally refined the artifact of creation, the Fuxian sword. It took a long time. I have to say, these two things look like a series. Nanshan Wanjiao looked at them for a few times and said with certainty. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Yeah. Wu Yu also looked more and more similar, especially some symbols, which are basically the same. Then use the same trick again, chop it off first. He also went all out, fixed the floating life tower, and then without saying a word, he used the floating life sword to chop the floating life tower. Bang! This time, the floating life sword that could break the white dragon scales was actually shaken away. But there was also a ripple on the floating life tower, making a harsh sound. What Wu Yu saw was that a magic circle outside the floating life tower seemed to be torn apart. Of course, that should be a fairy formation. However, Wu Yu had never discovered the existence of this fairy formation. When the fairy formation broke, suddenly, the floating life tower looked completely changed. What it showed instantly was the aura of the creation fairy weapon, mysterious and powerful, as if it had undergone a transformation. This floating life tower is indeed a creation fairy weapon, but it is sealed by a fairy formation. It is probably sealed by the floating life fairy king himself. However, why did the floating life fairy king go to the ancient fairy road? In fact, to this day, Wu Yu still thinks that the ancient fairy road is a bit strange. But Wu Yu's mind is now on this floating life tower. He seems to need to re-refine the floating life tower. When his spirit entered the floating life tower, he was stunned. The floating life sword has 500 million magic arrays. And this floating life tower actually has 800 million magic arrays inside, which is close to 1 billion. Once it reaches 1 billion, it will be a Taixu Artifact 1. Unexpectedly, the floating life tower is an even more amazing creation fairy weapon than the floating life sword. He spent a lot of time to get familiar with these magic arrays. The mystery of this floating life tower is not the puppets. The puppets are just accessories. Its mystery lies in time. I don't know how the immortal King Fuxian did it, but he actually has the means to control time, so the immortal formation inside is actually an immortal formation that controls time. The first one is, the immortal formation of the long river of time. This immortal formation is inside the Fuxian Tower and can change the flow rate of time inside the Fuxian Tower. Wu Yu's 10 times of time in the past came from here. Through this formation, with Wu Yu's current ability, he can control the flow rate to about 100 times. He can only reach this level, and I don't know if it will be higher in the future. But the flow rate of 100 times is already quite terrifying. For example, it's only 1 year outside, but it's already 100 years inside. 10 years outside, it's 1,000 years inside. Second, there is another immortal formation that can be used in battle, which is the time-speed immortal formation. This is to apply the change of time to the outside. Wu Yu doesn't know the mystery of time, but he can use it through the Fusheng Tower to activate this formation and form a time disorder immortal formation. He is not affected, but it should be difficult for the opponent to exert his strength in this time change. Therefore, this time-speed immortal formation may be a terrifying immortal formation equivalent to the immortal cloud field. Wu Yu was eager to figure out these two immortal formations. When he finished mastering them, a month had passed, but this had greatly increased Wu Yu's combat power. If he had the floating life tower and the floating life sword before, he could have easily defeated the heavenly dragon lord of the realm of the Lord of the Realm. After finishing, the three of them entered the floating life tower together, and Wu Yu increased the speed of time to about 100 times. 100 years inside, only 1 year outside. This was simply against the sky. Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi both laughed. What they needed most now was time. As for cultivation resources, Wu Yu had plenty of them. As for fighting and killing, the two of them could just counter each other's moves. Wu Yu sent the first communication immortal talisman to Luo Bin, saying, "First, I will retreat in Longshenchen for a year. I miss you, don't miss you." After a while, the reply came. She said, "I also want to retreat for a while to practice and figure out these two." Wu Yu replied, "The body of the 8 divisions of heavenly dragons must be cultivated." Luo Bin, "Okay." The immortal talismans sent by the communication all have her fragrance, and Wu Yu carefully keeps them. He wants to retreat for 100 years. The purpose is to practice some fighting methods and continue to improve the 4 magical powers. Wu Yu first looked at those earthly evil transformation techniques, which are top-level immortal methods. He doesn't know what level it is, at least it has surpassed the Realm Master's magic. Now without the help of the Monkey King, Wu Yu is particularly difficult to practice and has no clue. He estimates that this method cannot be practiced in the Taigzu Fairyland. So even if there are 20 earthly evil transformation techniques to practice, he can't do anything and can only keep them first. Then, Dragon Emperor Purgatory obtained 3 Realm Master magics, but the use of Realm Master magics requires the power of the world, which he does not have for the time being. Therefore, he can only improve his innate magical powers. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1327. When Wu Yu and the others left the immortal Dragon Emperor realm. In the heavenly realm of the Tianxing clan, on a huge river, a snow-white domineering dragon lay in the vast flow of water, washing its body. At this time, a purple divine dragon flew over and landed in the water. It leaned on the snow-white divine dragon and said delicately, "Brother Tianming, I heard that Wu Yu has left the immortal Dragon Emperor realm and just appeared in where is Longshen Tian." "Really? It's going pretty fast, the 5 days haven't arrived yet," Tianming Longjun sneered. "How does Brother Tianming plan to deal with him?" Tianzi asked. Tianming Longjun said, "I have an idea." "Zier, please give me a reference." "Brother, please tell me." Destiny Dragon Lord said, "This Wu Yu has brought me such shame and humiliation. Although it will be countless years before he becomes the immortal king, I can't let him have a chance to succeed, right?" Tianzi said, "Of course, I think Tianyu Dragon Lord thinks the same way. As long as Wu Yu leaves here, there will be no possibility of coming back in the future. With so many disasters and dangers outside, he may not be able to survive." The Tianming Dragon Lord looked gloomy and said, What I mean is that I will personally ask the people from the Slaughter Immortal Palace to pay a big price to find a 5-realm immortal lord who will kill Wu Yu until I succeed. Killing Immortal Palace has a great reputation and never leaks information about its employer, which is quite reliable. Tianzi was a little nervous and said, but, isn't there a powerful immortal behind him? Will this? Tianming Longjun sneered, actually, I think that no matter what my father and others say, they can't be sure whether this immortal exists, or whether it is an ancient, long-lost immortal who passed on to him. This is not certain. Yes, besides, we have 9 dragon emperors and so many dragon kings. I don't believe that our largest immortal beast tribe in heaven is even afraid of Wu Yu, who has inherited the inheritance of immortals. The most important thing is that you have seen it with your own eyes. How much did he humiliate me? Tianzi nodded and said, this Wu Yu is indeed disgusting. He deserves to die. However, it will cost a lot to hire an immortal lord of the 5 realms to kill him. Tianming Longjun said, Zier, I trust you and that's why I said this to you. You must never tell anyone else. Do you understand? Tianzi said aggrievedly, but, I heard that you want to go with that ancient immortal spirit dragon. Tianming smiled and said, don't talk nonsense, I did it all to humiliate Wu Yu before. In fact, in my heart, Zier is much better than that little thing. I hated Tianzi's face turned red. Tianming played around with her for a while, and then said seriously, Zier, the cost of buying the killer of the immortal lord of the 5 realms is still a little short of that. Can you help me? He has 20 years to fight for an immortal king order. If all this time is spent in the Fusion Tower, it will be 2,100 years. Of course, it is impossible to get the immortal king's order by staying in Fusion Tower. However, before going, Wu Yu still took some time to settle down. Integrate what he gained from the Dragon Emperor's purgatory within this year. In it, he obtained the Tao and good fortune of many 9th-level immortals, ghosts, gods, and dragons in the 9 mysterious Dao realm. These are all for reference, Wu Yu still needs to think about them carefully. He now has a lot of experience and perspectives on problems, which allows him to make rapid progress even if he sits down to practice. Devouring it in 1 year and settling it in 100 years, it is enough to master it. It took Wu Yu 50 years to digest all the Tao and all the insights of the immortals and dragons throughout their lives. Each of these immortals has lived for hundreds of thousands of years. The Tao and insights in their hearts are as vast as the stars, and it is impossible to know them clearly at once. Wu Yu spent decades on this. Before, I swallowed the dates wholeheartedly, but now I chew them slowly, even ruminating, to truly digest them. Now, I have more new creations in my heart, which seems to be more effective than swallowing a few more people. He used these new creations and insights in his cultivation. First, he made the Dragon Elephant Tathagata Prajna Buddha body advance 1 level further to the 5th level, and all the Dragon Elephant particles were divided into 2 again. He was still making progress in the Grand Heavenly Immortal technique, and gradually condensed his 5th path, the ancient immortal pattern, the Way of the Golden Eyes. The 4th ancient immortal pattern of the Tao is actually based on the magical power of the outside the law clone. It is his understanding of the clone that has reached its peak and formed the ancient immortal pattern of the Tao. And this 5th path is the ancient immortal pattern of the path formed by his understanding of the fire eyes and golden eyes. When this path is completed, Wu Yu enters the realm of the 5 combined mysterious immortals, and the ancient immortal patterns of the Dao are integrated into it. On top of the Bodhi seed, the Bodhi seed shines even brighter. With the new ancient immortal pattern of Tao, Wu Yu really gained a lot of insights into the fiery eyes and golden eyes. He was once an ancient emperor, and relied on his own insights to elevate Wu Yu's ancient immortal pattern of Tao to the realm of the godly eyes of heaven. In the next 20 years, Wu Yu finally gained something and achieved a breakthrough with the help of the golden eyes, the 7th level of his fiery eyes. The seventh level of the fiery eyes and golden eyes is called Flowing Fire Sky Mirror, and its killing power is naturally much more powerful than the heavenly divine eyes. There was still a lot of time left, so Wu Yu turned to studying the Dharma, heaven, image, and earth. He has worked hard on the clones outside the law, but has not yet gained anything. This chapter is not yet finished. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. However, because he can distribute the power he swallowed to these 100,000 clones, now these 100,000 clones are also at the level of celestial beings. 100,000 celestial beings are also quite grand. In the necessary time, they can also become Wu Yu's terrifying killer. After all, Wu Yu has swallowed so many dragons and immortals, and now he can use countless ancient immortal arts. Compared with the fire eyes and golden pupils, the law of heaven and earth is actually not that complicated, but it has been increasing. With his current comprehension ability and experience, Wu Yu will comprehend it for another 20 years and upgrade the law of heaven and earth to the 5th level. Now he can transform into a giant of 24 feet, standing upright. Generally, the restaurant inns in the mortal world can have 1 floor, or less than 1 floor, and Wu Yu has now transformed to the maximum, which is equivalent to nearly 30 floors of the restaurant. Just a finger is as huge as the pillar supporting the house. Many fairy beasts are not as huge as Wu Yu. Of course, if the change is the smallest, it will expand. The height is estimated to be only 1/4 of an inch, about the same thickness as a toothpick. When walking, it is invisible and extremely hidden. The fire eyes and the law of heaven and earth have improved. Wu Yu turned to the somersault cloud again. This time he spent 10 years and did not gain anything. He felt that the somersault cloud was still a bit mysterious. With the current comprehension, it might take hundreds of years to gain something. 100 years have passed, and Wu Yu is quite satisfied with the current progress, so he decided to walk out of the floating life tower. In 100 years, Nanshan Wanjiao has cultivated to the level of 5 UN Celestial Immortal, and Yazixi has also reached the 4th level of the immortal realm of longevity. The progress is considered fast. For the outside world, only 1 year has passed. Wu Yu was about to go to the 5,000th heaven, Chang'an heaven. Although they had made rapid progress, it would be useless to go there. Moreover, for the time being, they did not have the ability to devour like Wu Yu, so they were willing to stay in the fusion tower and practice slowly, not caring where Wu Yu was going. Now we have a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years, so we are not afraid of running out of lifespan. Yes, when your Taixu Immortal Road is opened, we will have practiced in it for more than 2,000 years. You have been in it for 100 years, and we have been practicing in it for 10,000 years. By then, no matter how poor our qualifications are, and no longer able to devour, we will also reach the realm of the Immortal Lord. The two of them, with their terrifying inheritance, still had a lot of confidence. The fusion tower was indeed of great use. It was just a creation fairy weapon, which was not worthy of its great effect. Of course, this had to be useful to these two top geniuses. If a mediocre person got it, it would be useless to make him 1,000 times faster. By then, if there is an opportunity to practice in the Taixu Immortal Road, you will also be allowed to participate. It will be good for you. Wu Yu nodded. He was ready to set off for Chang'an heaven. It would be great if we could bring Sister Lupin here too. She would definitely be much faster. Much faster than in the Immortal Dragon Emperor realm, Yazixi said. Wu Yu said helplessly, there is no way. The Shenlong will definitely not let her follow me. After all, to them, she is now a toddler and needs to grow up safely in a greenhouse. If she follows me, she will be in the wind and rain. Who knows where she will die? Then we deserve to follow you in the wind and rain, Nanshan Wanjiao said. Your miserable life is good enough to get here. Wu Yu smiled. That won't work. I still have great ambitions. I have come to the heavenly palace, but I haven't picked up a fairy yet. I am really unwilling. If it weren't for your fusion tower, I would have abandoned you and gone to the lower heavenly palace. With his current realm of the 5 UN celestial immortal and the ability of the great martial Tianpeng, he can definitely get along in the lowest heavenly palaces. Yezixi said, go ahead. If you want to see me 100 years later, I will torture you to death. By then, I can blow my breath and let you fly back to the world of Yama. Indeed, following Wu Yu, there must be better opportunities. At least this floating life tower is a kind of opportunity. Nanshan Wanjiao and the others need time the most. Okay, no more talk, let's go to Chang'an Heaven. Wu Yu went to the well of eternal life. Of course, before leaving, he still gave Luo Bin a communication fairy talisman, explaining the gains during this period, and then officially set off to Chang'an Heaven to compete for a fairy king order first. Although he is only in the Xianxian realm now, it does not affect his competition for the fairy king seal. And Luo Bin is also naturally working hard. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1328. Wu Yu soon arrived at the well of eternal life. Then, he entered the well of eternal life again. This time, he had to go from the 2000th heaven to the 5000th Kongjin heaven, which would take a long time. Moreover, the higher he went, the more energy he consumed. Wu Yu burned a lot of fighting power when he fought with the heavenly Fate Dragon King. Now, although his realm has been improved, his immortal essence and Buddha essence are not enough. After 100 years of absorbing immortal energy, he still has not replenished it to perfection. But now it should not be a problem to fight against the first level of the realm Lord God realm. If the Bodhi immortal essence can be perfected, it should be easier to defeat the heavenly Fate Dragon King, and there is no need to burn it. However, he knows that there are many strong geniuses in the entire heavenly palace who are much stronger than the heavenly Fate Dragon King. Although he has unlimited potential and his progress is terrifying, there is still a large group of immortals who are stronger than him above his head. Those are all beings who have been immortals for hundreds of thousands of years. They are Wu Yu's ancient ancestors. On the well of eternal life, step by step, going up. It takes a lot of time to cross the 3000 heavens just by crossing the well of eternal life. Although there are still 20 years, it can be basically seen that Chang'an will soon be quite lively, because at this time, he felt that many people had the same destination as him. And these people may have the immortal king order. However, Wu Yu can't deal with them, because these participants are at least above the 5 realms immortal lords, and the level of 5 realms immortal lords is also cannon fodder. Although 100 million immortal king orders have been issued, the ones who are really capable and more likely to have immortal king orders are those who have reached the 8 realms immortal lords or the 9 realms immortal lords. They are the real competitors, and most of the immortal lords are just playing soy sauce when they go in. And these 8 realms immortal lords and 9 realms immortal lords are indeed waiting to become immortal kings, and it is time to have immortal king orders. All of them have at least 4 elements in their immortality, and they can reach the realm close to the immortal king, which means that they are 1 in a billion, and their qualifications are superb. They are also the ancestors of Wu Yu's ancestors. Generally, most of the immortals who have cultivated in the mortal world are in the realm of heavenly immortals and cannot make progress. Those who can cultivate to the realm of Jixuan Dao are already geniuses. As for the immortal king, it should be rare in the past few years. Obviously, in a place like Chang'an Heaven, Wu Yu, who looks like a Xianxian, is definitely the weakest. It is difficult for Xianxian to rush to Chang'an Heaven. Others will think that someone brought Wu Yu there. But they will never think that Wu Yu also wants to enter the Taixu Immortal Road, because at least from the current strength, he is still more than 500,000 years away from becoming an immortal king, which is not something he can participate in now. Finally, when approaching Chang'an Heaven, the well of eternal life is almost blocked. Wu Yu is also very depressed. There are top immortal kings everywhere around him, each of them is terribly strong. He is drowned in the aura of all immortal kings. It is difficult to insist on going up at this position, and the key is that it is blocked. Although there are only 100 million immortal king orders, it is said that before the opening, Kongjin Heaven will gather 10 billion immortal lords who want to enter Taegsu Immortal Road. There are still 20 years left. The well of eternal life in Kongjin Heaven is blocked. Those who want to set out before the opening will probably arrive at Kongjin Heaven when Taegsu Immortal Road has been opened for more than 20 years. Therefore, to be on the safe side, anyone who wants to enter will basically arrive 20 to 50 years in advance, and 99% of them do not have the Immortal King Order in their hands, so they want to try their luck at the end. Wu Yu is now considered to be quite early, but just from the 4997th heaven to Kongjin Heaven, he was stuck in the well of eternal life for half a year. It must be unpleasant to be stuck in the well of eternal life. Everyone made their bodies the smallest. Wu Yu directly used the law of heaven and earth to drill through the crowd. It took half a year. You can imagine how great the temptation of this immortal king seal is. Fortunately, I finally arrived at Kongjin Heaven. The 5000th heaven is different. This place is not as vast as the heavenly palace below, but the immortal aura and the natural treasures here are definitely not comparable to those below. Wu Yu came out of the well of eternal life and looked at the vast world from afar, feeling awed. Go, don't stay, leave quickly. Countless immortals squeezed out in a panic and then dispersed. Wu Yu also sped up and used the somersault cloud directly to jump out of the crowded place. Looking back, there were at least tens of millions of top immortals near the well of eternal life. Any one of them could easily take down Wu Yu. There are too many powerful gods. But this is normal. They have spent hundreds of thousands of years to cultivate to this level. I just didn't expect that the heavenly court would be so crowded. In this Taegsu Immortal Road, it is a place where you can rise to become an immortal king. Once you become a king, these immortal kings can't help but fight hard. This is definitely the most magnificent event in the heavenly court. Wu Yu was very moved. He was frightened by the vastness of Chang'an Heaven and the feeling that the immortal kings were as numerous as ants. Which of those immortal kings can't crush him? They have also been waiting for 5,000 years, tens of thousands of years, and finally have the opportunity to become immortal kings. Each realm of the Lord of the Realm has its own autonomous world. Adding the original existence of Chang'an Heaven, it is estimated that there are too many realm masters in Chang'an Heaven. This chapter is not yet finished, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Wu Yu can almost predict that when the time comes, the competition for the Immortal King Seal will be like 1,000 people crossing a single plank bridge. Only a few will finally pass and become Immortal Kings. After all, Immortal King Seals are not easy to create. The number is extremely limited. Even many immortal families need to come to Taegsu Immortal Road to snatch Immortal King Seals. Countless immortal kings are scattered in Chang'an Heaven. Those immortal kings who were going to stay in the lower or upper levels of Chang'an Heaven to take a breath saw such congestion and were worried that they would not be able to reach Chang'an Heaven in the end, so they hurriedly squeezed in. There is a Kongjin Holy Land in Kongjin Heaven. It is a place that ordinary immortals cannot go to. It is the territory of the Eastern Kongjin Holy Emperor. Of course, he may not be here at ordinary times. The 5 holy emperors must have territories in higher heavens. In addition to the Kongjin Holy Land, there are 9 huge immortal cities. Even now, there are probably hundreds of millions of immortals in each immortal city. It's really scary. During this period of time, Kongjin Heaven should be the most densely populated place in the heaven. Even the lower heaven is probably not so densely populated. Wu Yu does not have the Immortal King Order now. He must go to inquire and investigate and get the Immortal King Order first. The place with the most dense crowds, of course, will have a higher possibility. So, he chose a place called Xuanhuan Immortal City and rushed to it. All of them are immortals. There are billions of people in the entire Kongjin heaven now. You can't beat them all. Tremble in fear, young man Nanshan Wanjiao said gloatingly. How dare you laugh at brother you? If you go out now, anyone can blow you away. Yazixi rolled her eyes. Ha ha. However, there are indeed too many immortals. Each one in front of them is a top immortal. Their temperament, aura, and Taoism have accumulated for hundreds of thousands of years. Most people are silent and very indifferent, which further shows that the storm is coming in Kongjin. To be honest, this is the most dangerous place. For the immortal king order, there may be fighting at any time. Even, the body is thrown into the wilderness. Wu Yu was very careful when walking. Maybe someone would target him because he had the immortal king order and kill him on the spot. These immortals have terrible means. Each of them has an independent world. If Wu Yu gets close, he will be instantly trapped in the other party's independent world. If he doesn't have the somersault cloud, he can't escape at all. This is also the reason why many people hide in the Shen'en Immortal City. At least the Shen'en Immortal City is controlled by many immortal kings, and they are all people of the Eastern Chang'an Saint Emperor. There may even be the existence of the immortal Emperor of Eternal Life. The immortal lords still don't dare to fight openly in it and compete for the immortal king order. To this day, the immortal king order continues to change hands every day. It is said that before the opening of the Taixu Immortal Road, because of the competition for the immortal king order, 100 million immortal lords will die in battle. Although it is very cruel, the heavenly court does not seem to care, and the Eastern Chang'an Saint Emperor does not care about things outside the 9 major immortal cities. Maybe it is worth it to die 100 million immortal lords and finally create hundreds of thousands of immortal kings. From immortal lord to immortal king, there is indeed a huge gap. At least Chang'an heaven is extremely dangerous. Such temptation still makes many immortal lords come here, like Crucian carp crossing the river. Wu Yu was indeed ambushed. In an instant, he didn't know where the opponent came from. The terrifying autonomous world enveloped Wu Yu. Wu Yu only saw that the opponent seemed to be a woman, and then there was a fatal killing intent. This autonomous world is several times larger than that of the Dragon Lord of Heaven. Hand over the immortal king order, and I will spare your life. The other party scolded. Wu Yu used the last of his strength to escape with the somersault cloud in an instant, avoiding the opponent's attack. Even if he escaped, he was scared and sweated. He estimated that the person just now was at least a 6th realm immortal king, which was the 6th level of the realm master realm. For him now, it was too scary. No wonder other people who had just arrived formed gangs and factions, and dared to leave with dozens of people. They hurriedly entered the immortal city first, otherwise they would be targeted and really died. Of course, if you have the immortal king order, you can still survive if you hand it over obediently. Even if I go out to pick up corpses every day, I have a lot of gains, right? Wu Yu thought depressedly. I didn't expect that there is such a brutal place of killing in the heaven. When he arrived at the city of Shen'en, he looked back and saw that it was a hell of killing behind him, with murderous spirits everywhere. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1329. Shen'en Immortal City is definitely the largest immortal city that Wu Yu has ever seen in his life. Taiwan Novel Network. Rightward arrow. I used to think that gods were big enough, but compared with this divine city, it was simply ridiculous. After all, this is a place that can accommodate hundreds of millions of immortal kings. Even if you fly 10,000 feet into the sky, you may not be able to see the entirety of this immortal city. When entering the immortal city, you are not allowed to cause riots or damage the immortal city. Once you violate the rules, the Divine Grace Emperor will definitely behead all rioters in public. As soon as Wu Yu entered, he heard such a sound echoing throughout the Xuanhuan fairy city, which sounded quite scary. It means that you can assassinate or fight for it, but don't make a big fuss. At least let the entire Xuanhuan fairy city maintain a semblance of peace. Those who make a big fuss during the battle may even destroy the fairy city and affect the people. Anyone who causes riots will be killed directly, regardless of the reason. Such a domineering method made Xuanhuan Immortal City feel particularly dead and scary, even though there were many immortal lords here. But the atmosphere was very serious, and the entire huge and boundless city was filled with a chilling atmosphere. Terrible Yezixi saw around him that all the immortals had cold faces, and they were so frightened that they were all in the corner of the fusion tower. The battle between the immortal kings, hundreds of millions of corpses. Terrible, terrible, Nanshan Wanjiao said speechlessly. Judging from today's situation, hundreds of millions is just a small number. Do you have the immortal king's order? What was scary was that as soon as Wu Yu came in, a very decent and handsome middle-aged immortal came up and asked. No, Wu Yu dodged. These people must be uneasy and well-intentioned. I have the immortal king token. If you pay a high price, I can sell it to you. The other party smiled. There was definitely a trap here, so Wu Yu hurried away quickly, because this was what other people did when they encountered this kind of situation. If he didn't leave quickly, talk to him a few more words, and fall into their trap, he would be in trouble. What kind of world, Xianxian, dares to come up to Chang Enshan? The middle-aged man sneered and continued to look for the target. As he walked on the road, there were dozens of pairs of piercing eyes staring at him all the time, as if staring at prey. Xianxian, come here, is there an order from the immortal king? Impossible, unless you come here specifically to die. It's better not to touch him. Be careful because he is a descendant of a certain immortal king who comes here to play. Otherwise, how could a normal Xian immortal have the courage to come to Chang Enshan? Yes. Don't cause trouble, it's important to find the immortal king token. Wu Yu could vaguely hear such words. He didn't dare to become small in such a crowded place, because so many immortal kings could still find him. Once they were curious about his magical powers, it would be troublesome. Before he came, he really didn't expect that the current Chang'an Tian would be such a murderous place. Even the Xuanhuan fairy city was so terrifying. Wu Yu walked around, pricking his ears and listening to people talking. We have no hope. The key is the immortal king token. If you don't even have the immortal king token, don't think about how to get the immortal king seal inside. Immortal Lord of the Seven Realms, it's really a fluke to get the immortal king seal. I heard that many descendants of the Emperor Immortal clan will join in this time, and every time the best ones are taken away by them. It would be good to get the immortal king seal and enter the competition. If you are not an immortal lord of the 9 realms, don't even think about the high-grade immortal king seal. I'm still not willing to give in. Why can they get the best? Those emperor immortals can't create the immortal king seal themselves. Anyway, Holy Emperor Dongfang Chang'an, that is the Holy Emperor of the 5 directions, is in charge of the immortal king seal of heaven. Of course he has more top immortal king seals in his hands. This time I heard that those terrible emperor immortals, such as the Zhao clan of the 36 heavenly generals Zhao Gongming, Li Qingtian's Li clan, etc., are all here. The descendants of the celestial emperor immortals, who have been taught by emperors and immortals of the level of 36 heavenly generals since childhood, there is a huge gap between them and those of us who have worked hard in the mortal world. Although some of them are immortal kings of the 9 realms, their combat power is not as good as that of the immortal kings. Almost. Haha, here, the descendants of the 36 heavenly generals are nothing. I heard that this time the ancient giant spirit god will come in person with the giant spirit god clan, and the ancient giant spirit god will come in person. The son of the god is going to participate directly, and it is said that he has locked the 9th grade immortal king seal in Taixu Immortal Road. The ancient giant spirit god. That is the favorite general of the Jade Emperor. When everyone heard this, they were all horrified. In addition to these, Wu Yu has also heard of too many gods. It seems that all kinds of legendary gods are involved. The competitors who are the descendants of the immortal emperor are indeed terrifying. They all come here for the highest grade immortal king seal. As for the immortal king seal that Wu Yu wanted to get, he didn't even want it if it wasn't of the highest grade. He is more concerned about that category of competitors. Don't worry too much. In this situation, it is most realistic for you to get the Immortal King token first. Only with the Immortal King token can you possibly get the Immortal King seal. As for the high-grade Immortal King seal, don't even think about it now. Yamingtaki sighed. The terrifying nature of the Immortal Lord here also frightened him. In addition to the clans and descendants of the Immortal, Wu Yu also heard other news. There were discussions about the Taixu Immortal Road everywhere, and it was impossible for him not to hear it. The Taixu Immortal Road is also called the Endless Galaxy. It is said that there is an endless starry sky with billions of stars. When we go in, there may be Immortal King battlefields on some stars, and there may be Immortal King seals in some Immortal King battlefields. At that time, we have to fight with the guards of the Immortal King battlefield itself, fight with competitors, and break the immortal formation of the Immortal King battlefield. It is extremely difficult. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The Endless Galaxy now is usually the military camp of the Tianyu Immortal Army, which has a large number of immortal monarchs and is led by the Tianyu Grand Marshal. If they defeat them, they can also get the Immortal King seal, so the Tianyu Immortal Army is also a terrible competitor, and there are many top figures among them. Wu Yu heard a lot of descriptions about the Taixu Immortal Road. Commander of the Galaxy, Tianyu Grand Marshal, Wu Yu looked at Nanshan Wanjiao. Nanshan Wanjiao murmured, Grand Marshal Tianpeng and Grand Marshal Tianyu, are they positions of the same level? Wu Yu nodded and said, the names are so similar, it is obviously very likely, and it seems that both of them command the immortal army directly under the heavenly court. This means that your inherited immortal was at the level of Grand Marshal Tianyu before. Of course, it is very likely, but not necessarily. Nanshan Wanjiao asked, why don't you ask around, what level is it probably? Wu Yu went to ask around. He walked and stopped, and couldn't ask people directly. It is estimated that others would think he was sick. Finally, he inferred and said, maybe, it is higher than the 36 heavenly generals, the ancient giant spirit gods, the 28 constellations, and the Big Dipper Star Lord, but slightly lower than the Eastern Kongjin Saint Emperor of the Five Directions Saint Emperor. As the Marshal of the Heavenly Court, he should be quite terrifying. Nanshan Wanjiao had a rough idea. It's actually beyond my expectation. I didn't expect that the great Marshal Tianpeng could be so scary. If he is really at the same level as the great Marshal Tianyu, then the four of us have made a fortune. Nanshan Wanjiao was secretly happy. Yazixi said, the great General Wanlian, although his title is general, the word Wanlian seems to be a person who accompanies the Jade Emperor and is close to him. He should be very scary. But brother Yu, what is the position of the great sage equaling heaven? Does it mean that he is equal to the heavenly court? That is. At the time, from this inference, the great sage equaling heaven is indeed very scary. Wu Yu smiled and said, forget it, stop imagining. We will know what will happen in the future. If we think so much, maybe they are not at this level in the end. Wouldn't that be a joke? For example, Marshal Tianyu is the second person in Taixu Immortal Road who cooperates with Saint Emperor Dongfang Kongjin to organize the Immortal King Seal War. At least in the vicinity of Kongjin Heaven, he should be second only to Saint Emperor Dongfang Kongjin. All the immortals are not as good as him. Just imagine it. Haha, if one day I can also become Marshal Tianpeng, to the level of Marshal Tianyu, that would be great. commanding the immortal army, and among the countless immortal armies, there are so many beauties. Aren't they all for me to enjoy? Thinking of this, Nanshan Wanjiao drooled. If you think so much, be careful not to live to tomorrow and not touch a fairy, Yezixi pouted. Oh, you dare to curse me, believe it or not, I will stew you, the cat, and eat it. Nanshan Wanjiao shook his beauty folding fan and laughed maliciously. Meow. The Wanhee cat jumped up and down in fear. Suddenly, it calmed down and became a little impatient. Brother you, Lanlan seemed to say that there are its kind in this store. Yezixi said anxiously. Same kind, Wanhee cat. Wu Yu and Nanshan Wanjiao were both surprised. Wu Yu looked to the side and saw that this was a huge immortal shop named, All Things God's Specialty Store. No wonder there were so many strange auras in it. It turned out that there were all things gods, and it was specialized in selling all things gods. Is there a rare all things god like Wanhee cat in it? Wu Yu walked in quickly. Although the shop was big, the immortals outside were anxious about the immortal king order. There were not many people at this moment. The owner of the shop was an old man of the Six Realms immortal lord. When he saw Wu Yu coming in, and he was a mysterious immortal, he was too lazy to open his eyes and said, Tell me what you value. The gods and spirits of all things here were imprisoned in a kind of immortal artifact. Wu Yu naturally saw at a glance that there was a Wanhee cat among them, which was the same size as Lanlan. It was jumping up and down in the immortal artifact container, and it was obviously unwilling to be trapped here. It was very uneasy and meowed. So pitiful, brother you, I want to find a companion for Lanlan, Yezixi said nervously. And the lazy cat was indeed very anxious, jumping up and down, and was very dissatisfied with the fate of his companion. Wu Yu looked at the price tag. Fortunately, this was the cheapest god of all things here, and the price was 5 creation god pills. Wu Yu had so much in his hand. It said, tracking spirit cats, with a very sensitive sense of smell, can track any existence with a wonderful feeling. It seems that the shop owner does not know that after the Wanhee cat recognizes its master, it can merge with the master and improve the master's combat effectiveness. I want this tracking spirit cat, Wu Yu said. The shop owner did not believe that Wu Yu could afford it. At this time, someone suddenly spoke behind him and said, I want this Wanhee cat, and I will give you 50 creation god pills. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1330. What a coincidence. Lalanlan has just found another Wanhee cat, and the immortal palace master doesn't know the real ability of Wanhee cat. He thought he could easily buy it with a little capital, so he was ready to pay the bill. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Yezixi was also very happy, and Lalan was even more happy because he finally had a little friend. Lalan is a big white cat, fat and big, but the Wanhee cat in this store is a little black cat, slightly younger than Lalan. Who would have thought that at this moment, Chen Yaojin would appear on the way, and just from those words, since the other party knew the name Wanhee cat, he had a deep understanding of Wanhee cat. The voice came from behind. It was quiet, cold, but very still, as if there was a kind of thrilling magic power in the voice. Wu Yu had never heard such a moving voice before. This voice was enough to make most immortals lose their minds and become distracted. He quickly turned around, and when he saw the person speaking clearly, he was indeed confused for a moment, and felt as if he was shocked. This is truly the top fairy in heaven. She is pure and mysterious, and her appearance and temperament are all top choices. Anyway, Wu Yu has never seen anyone else in this heaven. The woman wore a black dress, which showed her exquisite and concave figure to the fullest. Her dignified appearance revealed an indescribable sense of seductiveness. Her black hair was hanging down, tied only with a pink hairband, and her skin has a faint pink color, which is really beautiful. The phoenix eyes are charming and captivating, and the lips are like cherry blossoms, attracting endless reveries. When describing beauty in the mortal world, it can be said that it can captivate a country or a city, but the beauty in front of her can be said to be able to overwhelm 8,000 celestial palaces and crown hundreds of millions of celestial domes. Wherever she goes, all the immortals are lost. Wu Yu was so close that he was naturally even more shocked. In an instant, there was a thrilling feeling. The only flaw is that this woman seems to smile informally, has cold eyes, and has a sense of contempt for the common people and a sense of superiority. Obviously, she has an extremely high status above this heavenly palace. She is used to despising heaven and earth, and has 10,000 immortals bowing her head. This has been formed over countless years. Nobility cannot be changed overnight. Of course, because of this, it is even more awe-inspiring. The indifference and frost are also a kind of suffocating attraction. When she walked in and saw the Xuanhuan cat, the shopkeeper in front of Wu Yu saw her and hurriedly bowed and said, "Xiaoxian has seen the magic fairy. Whatever the magic fairy needs, just take it from Xiaoxian. The little fairy will never dare to accept the property of the devil fairy, just treat it as a gift from the little fairy to the fairy." Seeing that the shop owner was a little excited and a little nervous, he knew that the person who wanted to snatch Xuanhuan cat was a big shot, and Wu Yu couldn't help but have a headache. He could see that Zixi and Lalan Mao wanted this little black cat so much, and now they were both crying and crying. After all, they were about to get it. The devil fairy did not speak, but walked towards Wu Yu. The Xuanhuan cat was behind Wu Yu, and Wu Yu was blocking her way. She glanced at Wu Yu and said coldly, "Get out of the way." Wu Yu was not very cheerful. No matter how beautiful the other party was, this approach was wrong. He was about to retort, after all, everything was first come, first served, but when he looked outside, there were several middle-aged men and women standing outside who were dressed similarly to the demon fairy, all of them had the strength of the fairy king. Around them, no one else dared to get close. Wu Yu had stayed in the immortal Dragon Emperor realm for a while, and he knew at a glance that this group of people was extremely scary. Obviously, these people are the guards of this demon fairy, which means that this demon fairy is not only at least as strong as the 8th realm immortal lord, far more than Wu Yu, but also the descendant of the top immortal, and must not be messed with. Now that the outcome has been determined, it would be useless to say more. When he came to heaven, he also knew how to keep a low profile and got out of the way. However, there was obviously no willing look in his eyes. However, when he got out of the way, the magic fairy didn't look at him. She was a little happy and took the Xuanhuan cat away. At this time, the little black cat was still a little nervous and showed its teeth and claws, but it could not escape her control. "I don't accept your gift with the Xuanhuan cat." The demon fairy threw at least 50 pieces of creation pill to the immortal shopkeeper, then turned around, twisted her waist slightly, and walked out of this world of gods. The fairy kings outside the shop congratulated her one after another. She didn't even look at Wu Yu when she snatched the products that Wu Yu had clearly selected. The domineering momentum still made Wu Yu a little unhappy, even though she was a top beauty. "It's so beautiful, but it made my girl cry. If I have a chance in the future, I will definitely punish this little girl." Nanshan Wanjiao clicked his tongue. Indeed, Yezixi was so angry that she shed tears when she watched Xuanhuan cat disappear. Of course she really wanted to have a partner for Lalan. The lazy cat was also very sad, looking outside helplessly and making a meowing sound. The little black cat also knew the existence of Lalan Mao. At this time, it poked its head out from the control of the magic fairy and shouted this way, cute and pitiful. It would have been better if it had been earlier, so she wouldn't have taken it away. Yezixi said with tears in her eyes. She was really sad. Wu Yu took a deep breath and said, "This person may want to participate in the Taixu Immortal Road when he comes here. Maybe he will meet her again in the future. I will see if he has the ability to take you to that little the cat is brought back." "Brother Yu, it's better to say goodbye. This person is protected by the immortal king, and we can't afford to provoke him. Sister Luobin is still waiting for you to go back, so we'd better try not to cause trouble, Yazixi said. It's okay. We'll see what happens when the time comes. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The shopkeeper behind him was excitedly putting away the creation pills, and Wu Yu also walked out of the shop. At this time, there were actually many people watching the demon fairy surrounded by the immortal king, and they were all discussing in low voices. Wu Yu vaguely heard that the name of this demon fairy was Moug, and she seemed to be an important person. She would participate in the Taixu Immortal Road and compete for the Immortal King seal. Her strength and cultivation seemed to take a long time to reach the Nine Realms Immortal King. For a period of time, among the hundreds of millions of Immortal King token owners, the strongest existence question was raised. Moug has a very strong background. Wu Yu was inquiring about her background. Suddenly, a light suddenly shone in the sky, and above the clouds and mist, many gods were revealed. I am afraid they are all top-notch fairy kings. They gathered around a core, and vaguely saw that it was a terrifying god with overwhelming pressure. When it appeared, everyone couldn't help but kneel on the ground. Vaguely, Wu Yu saw that the immortal statue was blue in color, with purple hair and an angry look on his face. Wearing red armor and holding a black musical instrument, it seems to be a pipa. At this time, most of the Shen'an immortal city, many immortal lords, and even the hidden immortal king knelt down and respectfully shouted in unison, "It is polite to pay homage to the heavenly king of the state." King of the kingdom of heaven, Wu Yu searched in his mind. Among the criminals who had devoured many dragon emperors' prisons, he had a much broader experience and had some understanding of the heaven. The name of the heavenly king of the kingdom of Qi was very familiar. When he thought about it carefully, he was immediately frightened. Speechless. This heavenly king of controlling the kingdom is one of the four heavenly kings who guard the southern gate of the Lingxiao Hall of the Jade Emperor, the heavenly king of controlling the state in the east, the heavenly king of growth in the south, the heavenly king of Guangmu in the west, the heavenly king of Duoan in the north. This position in heaven definitely shows that he is the confidant of the Jade Emperor. In terms of status, he is probably close to the Grand Marshal Tianyu who rules the Immortal Lord. He should be considered a celebrity in front of the Jade Emperor. I didn't expect that one of the four heavenly kings who can go to Lingxiao Palace would appear in Chang'an heaven. This heavenly king of controlling the kingdom, with unparalleled power, is the top immortal in Wu Yu's mind. He must be one of the top existences in this heavenly palace immortal realm. He did not expect that at his level, he could see the existence of the peak of the heavenly palace. Wu Yu estimated that none of the 9 dragon emperors might have the strength of the kingdom holding heavenly king. After all, this is the king of heaven. The heavenly king of Dridahara, whose name is, demonic ceremony C. From this surname, Wu Yu suddenly thought that the fairy just now was named Moug. Could it be related to the king of the state? As expected, when the king of Dhritarashtra appeared, Moug did not kneel down. She said, "Father, why are you here?" Qi Qiuashan's voice was magnificent and he said, "The ancient giant spirit god, his son will also participate in the fight for the immortal king seal this time. He invited me to pick up the wind and wash away the dust. You go with me." "That guy?" "I don't want to go," Moug said. "Nonsense." The heavenly king of controllers stretched out his hand, and Moug disappeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. She was probably taken away by the heavenly king of controllers. The immortal kings who were protecting him also joined the team of the heavenly king of controllers. Then it headed east in a mighty way and disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the huge pressure of Shen'an Fairy City has just disappeared, and everyone feels like they can't breathe. What kind of king is this? He looks so powerful. Who is he? Nanshan Wanjiao asked. Wu Yu told them. Nanshan Wanjiao suddenly changed his color and said, "It turns out that she is the commander of the imperial guards guarding the Emperor of Heaven. No wonder she is so powerful. Little girl, you have to stop thinking now. That beauty is the daughter of the 4 heavenly kings. You and her stealing things is too long for your life." Yazixi disliked him and said, "But just now, you said you wanted to punish her." "Haha, did I say that? Haha." Nanshan Wanjiao smiled sarcastically. Wu Yu pondered for a moment, and it was clear that the battle for the immortal king seal was much more difficult than he imagined. Top gods from all walks of life, and even the daughters of the 4 heavenly kings, came to fight for it. There were really many strong people of this level. No wonder Chang'an is so lively. Everything comes first served, no matter what her status is. Wu Yu was still sad when he saw Yazixi. At least he remembered this matter. He had strong confidence in himself. He relied on himself on the Taixu Immortal Road. Maybe, he could take the little black cat. Want to come back? Meow. Lalun still had tears in his eyes.